"Mom, why do I have to wed a human?" the alien princess shouted at her mother HFY. "Mom, why do I have to wed a human?" she shouted, her voice echoing against the polished crystal walls. The words rang through the spacious hall, bouncing off the high ceilings and scattering servants and advisors alike. The queen, tall and regal, with skin shimmering faintly like liquid silver, remained calm. Her long robes flowed behind her, embroidered with the history of their royal lineage. She had expected protests, of course, but the force and raw emotion in Lyra's voice were stronger than usual. She looked at her daughter with a mixture of understanding and quiet firmness. "Lyra, we have spoken about this many times," the queen said softly, but with an authority that left no room for argument. "The human alliance is crucial for the survival of our people. Captain Elias Kane is not just a man. He is a leader, a strategist, and someone who can help secure the future of Zithra Prime." Lyra stamped her foot, a sound that seemed almost too small for the rage inside her. "I don't care. I don't want a human. They are different. They don't understand us. They don't belong here." She threw her hands in the air, letting her frustration spill out. Her words were a mix of fear, anger, and confusion. The queen walked slowly toward her daughter, her eyes softening. "I understand your feelings, my child. Change is never easy, and humans are different. But that difference is what makes them valuable. You are not being forced into this marriage out of whim or tradition. It is for the safety and strength of our world. You are a princess, Lyra, and your choices carry the weight of many lives." Lyra felt a surge of stubbornness rise in her chest. "But why me? Why can't someone else do it? I don't want this responsibility. I don't want to marry a human." Her voice cracked slightly, and for a brief moment she looked almost smaller than she was. The queen knelt down to meet her daughter's gaze. "Because, Lyra, you are strong. You are clever. You are capable of seeing what others cannot. And because of that, you can make this alliance work in a way no one else can. You have the power to bring understanding between our species. It will not be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is. But I believe in you." Lyra felt a mixture of pride and defiance. Pride because her mother trusted her, and defiance because she still did not want to give in to this fate. She turned sharply and walked toward the large panoramic windows that overlooked the city below. The streets of Zithra Prime shimmered with the light of 1,000 neon colors, ships gliding silently above the domed buildings. She could see her people going about their daily lives, unaware of the storm brewing within their princess. "Do they even know humans?" she muttered under her breath, more to herself than anyone else. She had read about them in the royal archives, seen their images through hollow projectors, and even studied some of their customs. But humans were unpredictable. They were bold in ways that scared her. They were different, and Lyra had always valued predictability and control. The queen rose and moved closer, placing a gentle hand on Lyra's shoulder. "Differences do not always mean danger. Sometimes, differences mean opportunity. Humans have survived and thrived in ways we cannot imagine. They think quickly, adapt quickly, and face challenges without fear. You will see that for yourself, and perhaps you will even admire them." Lyra turned sharply to face her mother, eyes blazing. "Admire them? How can I admire someone I barely know? I don't even want to meet this human. Why can't we find someone from another planet, someone more like us?" The queen sighed, a soft, sorrowful sound that carried the weight of centuries of leadership. "Lyra, humans are unlike anyone else in the galaxy. That is why they are our allies. And perhaps, in time, you will see that their differences are not weaknesses but strengths. And strength is what we need now." Lyra's hands dropped to her sides. Her mother's words made sense, but her heart still rebelled. She wanted to resist, to run, to find a way to escape this fate. She walked back to the center of the hall, pacing in frustration. "I don't understand why it has to be me," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I am not ready for this. I am not ready to be married, to be part of some alliance. I just want to be me." The queen's gaze softened even further. You will always be you, Lyra. Being a princess does not change who you are. It only gives you the chance to shape the world in ways others cannot. You have choices always. Even within duty, there is room for your voice, your will, and your spirit. Lyra paused, her mind swirling with conflicting emotions. Her mother was right, of course. As a princess, her actions affected more than just herself. Every decision she made carried the weight of her people's survival. And yet, she still wanted to resist, still wanted to assert her independence. Just then, a soft chime echoed through the hall, signaling the arrival of a messenger. A young Zitharan attendant hurried forward, bowing deeply. Princess Lyra, Captain Elias Kane has arrived in the outer court. He requests an audience with you. Lyra froze. Her heart raced at the thought of meeting the human. She had imagined him many times in her mind, what he would look like, how he would behave. But now that the moment was here, a nervous flutter of fear mixed with curiosity took hold. She had never met a human in person, and the idea of seeing one speaking to one was both exciting and terrifying. The queen stepped beside her daughter, her presence steadying. This is the moment, Lyra. You will meet him, see him for yourself. You may not like everything about him, and he may not like everything about you, but this is the first step toward understanding. Step forward with courage. Lyra took a deep breath, straightening her posture. She felt the weight of her crown, heavy yet comforting, reminding her of the responsibility she bore. She nodded, more to herself than to anyone else, and followed her mother toward the outer court. The grand doors slid open, revealing a human standing at attention. He was tall, with strong features and eyes that seemed to observe everything with quiet intelligence. His uniform was simple but dignified, adorned with insignia she did not recognize. Despite his calm demeanor, Lyra could sense a subtle energy about him, a confidence born of experience and survival. Captain Elias Kane bowed slightly, his voice steady and clear. Princess Lyra, it is an honor to meet you. I come with respect for you and your people. I hope we can find common ground for the sake of our worlds. Lyra blinked, momentarily speechless. There was a sincerity in his tone that she had not expected. Humans, she thought, were not just unpredictable, they were capable of respect, courage, and perhaps even wisdom. Yet her pride would not allow her to show it. You may rise, Captain, she said finally, her voice carefully controlled, though a flicker of curiosity shone in her eyes. You are welcome here, but do not think your presence makes this alliance easy for me to accept. Elias straightened, meeting her gaze without hesitation. I would not presume, Princess. I know trust is earned, and I am here to earn it. Lyra felt an unfamiliar sensation, intrigue. Perhaps humans were not as simple as she had imagined. Perhaps there was something in them that could match the ingenuity and strength of Zitharans, but she would not allow herself to be swayed so quickly. She would watch, judge, and decide for herself. As the conversation continued, Lyra led Elias through the palace gardens, a place filled with glowing flora and softly humming energy sources. The air was fragrant with alien flowers, and the gentle hum of the palace's energy system filled the space with a soothing rhythm. As they walked, Lyra began to notice small things about the human, his careful observations, his polite questions, the way he adapted to alien technology with curiosity and skill. He was nothing like she had expected. He did not stumble or falter. He did not appear afraid. Instead, he seemed genuinely interested in learning, understanding, and contributing. A spark of grudging respect ignited in Lyra's heart. She could not deny it. Humans were clever, resourceful, and unafraid to face what they did not understand. Perhaps this union, though forced, might not be entirely hopeless. And yet, deep inside, Lyra knew she would not submit easily. She would challenge him, test him, and ensure that whatever alliance formed would be earned by both sides. She would not be a passive participant in her own destiny. For the first time that day, Lyra smiled faintly, a mixture of defiance and curiosity. The human before her was an enigma, unpredictable yet fascinating. And in that unpredictability, perhaps, lay a chance for something remarkable, something that could change the future of Zithra Prime forever. Princess Lyra had hardly slept that night. Her thoughts kept returning to the human, Captain Elias Kane, and the unusual way he had carried himself through her palace. Even now, walking through the crystalline corridors with him by her side, she could not shake the curiosity that gnawed at her pride. The morning sun painted the city of Zithra Prime in shades of gold and purple. Ships hovered silently above the glowing streets, and the palace gardens shimmered with dew that reflected the first light. Lyra's attendants whispered to one another as she passed, their eyes filled with concern and awe. Few had ever seen her speak with a human so openly. Elias walked beside her, his steps steady but relaxed. He studied the gardens with interest, noting the peculiar alien flora and the faint hum of the energy conduits beneath the soil. He did not speak much, allowing Lyra to lead, but his gaze was sharp, attentive, and unafraid. Every now and then he would ask questions, not in a tone of interrogation, but in one of genuine curiosity. "Princess, these flowers, do they bloom naturally like this, or are they enhanced by technology?" Elias asked, pointing to a tree that shimmered with light at the tips of its branches. Lyra paused, a faint smile touching her lips despite herself. "Both," she replied. "Our gardeners cultivate them with care, but our energy systems amplify their natural growth. It is a delicate balance." He nodded, impressed, and then added quietly, "Humans could learn from this." The word startled her. She had expected him to admire Zitharan technology or beauty, but to suggest that humans could contribute something. It was bold, almost cheeky. Yet she found herself intrigued rather than offended. They continued walking, and Lyra realized that she had begun to talk more freely than usual. She explained the history of the palace, the importance of the alliance with other species, and even some of the daily responsibilities she carried as a princess. Elias listened attentively, never interrupting, his eyes reflecting genuine interest. By mid-morning, they arrived at a large observation deck that overlooked the outer defenses of Zithra Prime. The view was breathtaking. A fleet of defensive ships floated silently in orbit, their hulls reflecting the light of the twin suns. Beyond them, a distant asteroid belt glimmered like a chain of stars, and in the far reaches of space, small blips indicated the movements of foreign vessels. Lyra turned to Elias, her expression serious. "You understand why our alliance is important, don't you? The Zelari will not wait for us to be ready. They strike when we are unprepared. We need allies who are clever and brave enough to help us defend our world." Elias nodded. "I understand, Princess. Humans have faced many impossible situations. We survive by thinking differently, by adapting quickly. Perhaps I can help in ways Zitharans do not expect." Lyra's eyes narrowed slightly. She wanted to challenge him to see if his confidence was truly deserved. "Do you know what that means? Working with us is not easy. We do not follow the same rules as humans. We have protocols, strategies, and ways of thinking that may seem rigid to you." "I am not afraid of rigid rules," he replied calmly. "I am afraid of failing to protect those who rely on me. Rules can be learned. Courage and adaptability, those come from within." For a moment, Lyra studied him in silence. He was different from anyone she had met. He did not boast. He did not appear intimidated by her status, and he carried an air of quiet authority that demanded respect without needing to assert it. Their moment was interrupted by an urgent message from the palace communications center. The holographic screen flickered to life, showing the commander of the outer fleet. His face was tense. "Princess Lyra, Captain Kane," the commander said quickly, "we have detected unusual activity near the trade routes. It appears to be a scouting force from the Zelari. They are testing our defenses." Lyra felt a cold shiver run down her spine. The Zelari were notorious for their ruthlessness, and any attack, no matter how small, could be dangerous. "How large is the force?" she asked. "Small but well armed." "They are likely probing our response time," the commander replied. Lyra turned to Elias. "This is your first test. How would humans respond in this situation?" Elias considered for a moment, then spoke with a calm decisiveness that surprised her. "First, assess the enemy. Gather all available data from sensors and intelligence. Then, organize the defense in a way that maximizes efficiency while minimizing risk to civilians. And finally, adapt as the situation changes." Lyra blinked. That was simple, yet effective. Zitharans often overcomplicated things with protocol and ceremony, while humans seem to cut straight to the essentials. "We will need to act quickly," she said, her tone sharper now. "Follow me to the command center." Inside the command center, the walls were lined with holographic displays showing the positions of ships, trade convoys, and distant signals. Lyra watched as Elias moved among the screens, analyzing data faster than she expected. He asked pointed questions about Zitharan technology, noted strengths and weaknesses, and suggested strategies that were bold but sensible. Lyra felt a mix of frustration and admiration. He was challenging her understanding, forcing her to think in new ways, yet his ideas were not reckless. They were effective. "Deploy scout ships to intercept them at multiple points," Elias said, pointing to the map. "Do not underestimate their speed, but use their predictability against them. Set traps along expected paths and monitor for deviations. We can control the engagement without risking civilians unnecessarily." Lyra's jaw tightened. No human had ever spoken to her like this, direct, confident, yet respectful. She found herself listening closely, weighing his suggestions carefully. The Zelari would not expect a strategy like this, she realized. Humans were clever. As the scouts moved into position, the Zelari ships appeared on the display, small but deadly. The initial engagement was tense, with quick maneuvers and sudden bursts of energy fire. Lyra watched, heart pounding, as Elias directed the defenders with a calm authority that belied the danger. Despite the chaos, the human strategies proved effective. The Zelari ships were delayed, caught in traps and forced into predictable paths. Lyra found herself shouting orders alongside him, their voices blending in the command center as they coordinated the defense. For the first time, she felt a spark of admiration for a human. They were not just strong or brave, they were adaptable, quick-thinking, and willing to take risks when necessary. After the engagement ended, with the Zelari retreating for now, Lyra and Elias stepped outside the command center. The city below had been spared and the fleet remained intact. She looked at the human, her expression softening. You did well," she admitted, though she tried to keep her pride intact. "Your strategies saved lives today." Elias inclined his head. "We saved them together." "Your people fought bravely too, Princess. You gave clear orders and your soldiers followed them without hesitation." Lyra blinked. She had expected him to take the credit to boast, yet he acknowledged her contribution. It was surprising. She felt a strange respect growing, one that she did not fully understand. Later, in the quiet of the palace gardens, Lyra walked alone for a moment, reflecting on the events of the day. She had begun the morning certain she would resist the human, certain she would reject the idea of marriage and alliance. But now, she was not so sure. Humans were not weak, not careless, and certainly not predictable. They had ingenuity and courage that rivaled anything Zitharans could imagine. She paused by a small fountain, the water shimmering with reflected light. "Perhaps they are not so different from us," she whispered to herself. "Perhaps they are stronger than I thought." When Elias approached, she did not turn immediately. She felt a mixture of curiosity and defiance. "You seem different from what I expected," she said finally, her voice carrying both challenge and intrigue. Elias smiled faintly. "Different humans exist, Princess." Some are reckless, some are cautious, but all of us learn and adapt. I hope you will see that for yourself in time." Lyra studied him in silence. He was not boastful, not arrogant, and yet he carried an energy that drew her attention. She realized that humans were not simply a political tool. They were living, thinking beings capable of shaping outcomes in ways Zitherans could not always predict. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the palace grounds. Lyra and Elias continued walking, side by side, neither speaking for a while. It was a peaceful silence, yet charged with unspoken understanding and a hint of challenge. By the time night fell, Lyra returned to her private chambers. She looked out over the city, the lights twinkling like stars. Her thoughts were a swirl of curiosity, pride, and something else, something she had not expected, respect for the human standing by her side. Perhaps this alliance, this forced union, might not be entirely unbearable. Perhaps humans were not the fragile, unpredictable creatures she had imagined. Perhaps they were capable of greatness. And for the first time, Lyra allowed herself to imagine a future where she might not only tolerate humans but learn from them, and maybe even admire them. The morning sun cast a golden hue over the palace of Zithra Prime, but Princess Lyra hardly noticed it. Her thoughts were consumed by the news delivered during the night. A distant trade planet, Zithra IX, had requested immediate diplomatic negotiations. It was a critical opportunity to strengthen the alliance, and the Queen had made it clear that Lyra and Captain Elias Kane would lead the mission together. Lyra's first reaction was frustration. She had hoped to avoid long journeys with the human, fearing it would force her to become familiar with someone she barely trusted. And yet, duty called. She had no choice but to accept. Her attendants prepared her quickly, helping her into a sleek flight suit designed for long interstellar travel. Elias was already waiting in the outer courtyard, his gear packed and ready. He greeted her with a calm nod, which only made her cheeks flush slightly. He seemed completely at ease, as if traveling across the galaxy to negotiate with alien officials was nothing unusual. "You are ready, Princess," he said politely, though his voice held the faintest trace of amusement. "I am always ready," Lyra replied sharply, though her words carried less conviction than she intended. The journey to Zithra IX was long but uneventful at first. The transport ship glided through the quiet expanse of space, leaving a sparkling trail of energy in its wake. Lyra and Elias spent the first hours reviewing the intelligence files on the planet, noting trade patterns, potential hazards, and cultural norms of the alien species they were about to meet. "I find it fascinating," Elias said suddenly, pointing to a series of holographic graphs. "Your technology is advanced, but your trade protocols seem rigid. Humans are used to improvising, but your people follow procedure almost to the letter." Lyra scowled. "Our procedures work. They have worked for centuries. Structure is necessary to maintain order. If we bend the rules too much, chaos follows." Elias tilted his head thoughtfully. "Perhaps, but sometimes flexibility saves lives and sometimes rules slow you down. There is value in both approaches. The key is knowing when to apply each." Lyra studied him, noticing the subtle confidence in his tone. Humans, she realized, had a way of thinking that was different yet effective. They could see possibilities that Zitherans often missed, balancing risk and reward with a clarity that she found intriguing. The conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert. The ship's sensors had detected an anomaly along their flight path, an unmapped asteroid field appearing unusually active. "Princess, we need to adjust course," Elias said quickly, moving to the control panel. "This field is unstable and its trajectory could damage the ship if we continue directly." Lyra narrowed her eyes. "Can you handle it?" she asked, partly to challenge him. "Of course," he replied, his hands moving swiftly over the controls. "But I will need your cooperation." "I can navigate, but some adjustments require the input of someone who understands Zither ship systems. Lyra hesitated for only a moment before joining him at the control panel. Together, they calculated angles, thrust levels, and the safest route through the asteroid field. The ship shuddered as small rocks collided with its hull, but Elia's calm guidance kept the craft steady. "You humans are surprisingly good at this," Lyra admitted grudgingly, feeling a mix of frustration and admiration. Elia smiled faintly. "We learn quickly. Survival depends on it." After navigating the asteroid field safely, the two continued toward Zithera IX, the earlier tension giving way to a strange sense of teamwork. Lyra was beginning to see Elia's not as an obstacle, but as someone capable of complementing her strengths in ways she had never anticipated. When they finally arrived at Zithera IX, they were greeted by a bustling spaceport filled with ships of many designs. The planet's capital was a mix of towering structures and floating marketplaces, alive with movement and color. Lyra felt a moment of awe but quickly remembered her purpose: diplomacy. Their host, Ambassador Torin, was a tall, four-armed alien with green scales and bright amber eyes. His manner was courteous but formal, and he wasted no time in presenting the issues at hand: trade disagreements, cultural misunderstandings, and political tensions with neighboring planets. Lyra and Elias listened carefully, exchanging glances as each problem was presented. Torin expected Lyra to respond, and she spoke first, citing protocols, historical treaties, and the laws of Zithera Prime. Her voice was confident, her posture regal, but she noticed Torin's subtle expressions of frustration. Her structured approach, while thorough, seemed to overwhelm the discussion rather than resolve it. Elias spoke next, gently suggesting compromises and practical solutions. His ideas were simple yet effective, offering ways to meet the needs of both sides without violating core principles. He listened, observed, and adjusted his proposals based on reactions, something Lyra found fascinating and even a little unsettling. "You humans are bold," she whispered under her breath, mostly to herself. Elias glanced at her but did not comment. Instead, he continued steering the conversation with calm authority. Lyra noticed that his methods, combined with her knowledge of Zither protocols, created a balance that neither of them could achieve alone. As negotiations progressed, a sudden alarm sounded. Outside the window of the conference hall, small spacecraft appeared, moving at high speed toward the city. They were clearly not friendly. "Zelari," Elias muttered, recognizing the signature ships from earlier intelligence. "They are attacking while we are distracted." Lyra's heart pounded. "What do we do?" Elias moved quickly. "We defend the city and protect the ambassadors. You will help me coordinate with the local forces. Your knowledge of Zither systems will be crucial." Lyra's instincts took over. She had trained for situations like this her entire life, but she had never coordinated defense alongside a human. Her pride wanted to resist, but her duty demanded action. Together, they moved to the Defense Command Center of Zithera IX, directing forces and organizing civilians. The Zelari ships attacked with precision, but Elia's strategies, combined with Lyra's intimate knowledge of Zither systems, turned the tide. Small squads of defenders used the environment cleverly, creating traps and ambush points that slowed the invaders. Lyra realized with surprise that humans, though fewer in number and less technologically advanced in some ways, could inspire ingenuity and adaptability in others. Hours passed in a tense rhythm of attack and defense. Lyra and Elias worked tirelessly, speaking little but communicating with efficiency. Each time a crisis arose, Elias adapted quickly, devising solutions that were bold and effective. Lyra could not help but respect his ability to think clearly under pressure. Finally, the Zelari retreated, their forces scattered and their plans foiled. The city of Zithera IX was damaged but not destroyed, and the ambassadors were safe. Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking the city, her chest heaving with exhaustion. Elias joined her, equally tired but composed. "You were incredible," she said, her voice quiet but sincere. "You, humans, are different from what I imagined. You think in ways I never expected." Elias shook his head modestly. "We are all capable of learning, Princess. Today, we learned from each other." Lyra studied him, noting the way he carried himself, the calmness that did not waver even under extreme pressure. She realized that humans were not just capable, they were inspiring. Their ingenuity, courage, and adaptability were qualities she had underestimated. As the night fell over Zithra IX, Lyra felt a shift within herself. She had begun the day resistant, frustrated, and skeptical, but by evening her respect for Elias had grown. She realized that humans, though different, brought qualities to the galaxy that Zithrans could not always produce on their own. For the first time she wondered if this alliance, this forced partnership, might actually work. Perhaps humans were not merely allies in politics but partners in strategy, problem-solving, and survival. Elias watched her quietly, sensing her thoughts. "Princess, you do not have to trust me immediately," he said softly. "But I hope you will observe, learn, and see that humans can rise to challenges in ways you might not expect." Lyra nodded, a small smile touching her lips. "I am beginning to see that, Captain. I am beginning to see it." The two stood together in silence, looking out over the glowing city, aware of the dangers that still lurked in the galaxy but feeling a newfound sense of confidence. They were different, yes, but together they had faced challenges and prevailed. The human before her was no longer an enigma to be feared but a partner to be understood, and perhaps, in time, admired. As they returned to the conference hall to complete their negotiations, Lyra felt a growing determination. She would not simply follow her mother's instructions blindly. She would test, challenge, and ensure that whatever alliance was formed would be strong, effective, and resilient. With Elias by her side, she began to believe that they could accomplish more than either of them could alone. And in that realization, a small spark of hope ignited. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and uncertainties, but together, Princess Lyra and Captain Elias Kane had begun to understand the true potential of their partnership. The journey ahead would not be easy, but for the first time, Lyra felt that perhaps the future of Zithra Prime, and even humanity, was brighter than she had ever imagined. The sky over Zithra Prime darkened as multiple Zelari ships emerged from the edge of the system. Their sleek black hulls glinted under the twin suns, and the energy trails of their engines streaked across the horizon. Princess Lyra stood on the balcony of the palace, her violet eyes wide with tension, while Captain Elias Kane moved swiftly to the command center. "This is not a drill," Elias said, his voice calm but firm as he addressed the assembled officers. "The Zelari are launching a full-scale attack. We need to protect the city, our fleets, and civilians. Princess, I will need your help coordinating with our forces. Your knowledge of Zitharan systems is crucial." Lyra's chest tightened, but she straightened, feeling the weight of responsibility. This was the moment she had feared, yet secretly anticipated. Her hands moved over the control panels, scanning fleet positions, civilian zones, and energy shields. "Activate the outer defense grid," she ordered, her voice steady despite the panic that bubbled within. "Prepare fighter squadrons for rapid response. Evacuate civilians from low-orbit zones. Alert the planetary defense forces." Elias nodded in approval. "Good. Now, adjust the fleet formation to funnel the Zelari ships into narrow corridors. Limit their maneuverability. Use energy fields to create choke points. Focus fire on high-threat targets first." Lyra blinked. His strategy was bold and efficient, taking advantage of weaknesses she had never considered. She realized with growing respect that humans were not only clever but fearless in ways Zitharans often were not. The first wave of Zelari ships struck without warning, Explosions lit up the city's orbit, and alarms blared throughout the palace. Lyra and Elias worked side by side, issuing orders and coordinating defenses. The human fleet, though smaller in number, moved with precision, using unpredictable maneuvers that confused the Zelari and allowed Zitharan ships to gain the upper hand. Lyra could hardly believe her eyes. Humans, she thought, were like wild energy, untamed yet effective. Their courage and creativity sparked new ideas in her own mind. She found herself improvising alongside Elias, suggesting ways to reroute energy shields and deploy mobile defense drones. Each suggestion, combined with his tactics, created a synergy neither could achieve alone. An explosion rocked the command center, and Lyra stumbled briefly, catching herself on a console. Sparks flew from damaged panels, but she pressed on. She watched as a group of Zelari ships attempted to flank the city, only to be caught in a trap orchestrated by Elias and executed with her guidance. "You see that, Princess?" Elias said, pointing to the holographic display. "Humans adapt under pressure. Predictable actions get punished, but creative thinking turns the tide." Lyra's lips curved into a small, reluctant smile. "I am beginning to understand." The battle intensified. Zelari fighters darted through the skies, targeting civilian transports and supply ships. Lyra's stomach clenched as she watched energy blasts narrowly miss homes and marketplaces. She felt a surge of determination. She would not allow her people to be harmed. "Divert power to the planetary shields," she commanded, her fingers moving quickly over the controls. "Synchronize with the fighter squadrons. Block their approach from the North Corridor." Elias added his own adjustments. "Use the debris field from the asteroid belt as cover for our ships. Force them into predictable patterns, then strike with concentrated fire." The combination worked. Zelari ships collided with debris or became trapped in energy fields. Smaller groups were quickly neutralized by coordinated Zitharan and human fleets. Lyra's heart raced with adrenaline. She had never felt such intensity, and yet she felt alive. Hours passed in a blur of strategy, explosions, and constant movement. The palace trembled under occasional strikes, but the fleet held firm. Lyra realized that humans had a unique ability to inspire those around them. She noticed Zitharan soldiers fighting with renewed confidence, adapting tactics they had never considered, and taking risks they might have avoided before. Elias' presence seemed to ignite courage and creativity in every ally. During a brief lull in the battle, Lyra leaned over the console, her forehead resting against her hand. Elias approached quietly. "You are doing well," he said softly. "Do not doubt yourself. Your leadership is just as important as the tactics we use." Lyra looked up, meeting his gaze. "It feels different," she admitted. "Working alongside a human, making decisions together. I did not expect to feel respect, but I do, for you, for your people." Elias smiled faintly. "Respect is earned, Princess. And today, we have earned it together." The next wave of Zelari ships came with renewed force, larger and more aggressive. They had learned from their earlier failures and sought to overwhelm the defenses. Lyra's fingers flew over the console, issuing rapid orders, while Elias adjusted the fleet's strategy in real time. They combined Zitharan precision with human adaptability. Shields were raised and lowered dynamically. Fighters moved in unpredictable patterns, and decoys drew enemy fire away from key targets. The Zelari were forced into a chaotic dance, their superior technology unable to compensate for the humans' creativity and the Zitharans' discipline. Lyra realized something profound. Humans were not just strong individually, they amplified the strengths of those around them. They inspired adaptability, courage, and ingenuity. For the first time, she understood why her mother had insisted on this alliance. Amid the battle, a particularly dangerous Zelari commander targeted the palace directly. Lyra's heart leapt into her throat. Civilian zones and royal areas were at risk. Without hesitation, Elias coordinated a strike team, moving with precision to intercept the threat. Lyra used her knowledge of the palace defenses to guide them, setting energy traps and activating hidden turrets. The Zelari commander's ship was caught in the traps, its attacks neutralized before it could reach the palace. The fleet cheered in the command center, and Lyra felt a surge of relief and pride. "You humans are remarkable," she whispered, almost to herself. "I had no idea." Elias' expression was calm, but there was a glint of pride in his eyes. "Humans survive by rising to the occasion, Princess. We do not give up, we adapt, we endure, that is our strength." The battle continued for several more hours, with Zelari forces retreating sporadically only to regroup and attack again. Lyra and Elias remained at the command center, issuing orders, analyzing data, and responding to crises as they arose. Each time they faced a new threat, they adapted, learned, and overcame it together. By nightfall, the Zelari finally retreated from Zithra Prime, their forces scattered and their plans foiled. The city had sustained damage, but the population was largely unharmed, thanks to the combined strategies of humans and Zitherans. Lyra stood on the palace balcony once more, exhausted but triumphant. The stars above were bright, unmarred by the smoke and chaos of battle. She felt a mixture of relief, pride, and newfound understanding. Humans were not what she had imagined. They were clever, courageous, and capable of inspiring others to greatness. Elias joined her, his uniform slightly scuffed, his expression calm but tired. "You led well, Princess," he said. "Your decisions saved lives today." Lyra met his gaze, her respect clear. "And you, Captain, your strategies, your courage, it is unlike anything I expected. I have underestimated humans. I see now why my mother insisted on this alliance." Elias inclined his head. "It is not about being underestimated, Princess. It is about what we do when faced with impossible odds. Humans rise, Zitherans rise. Together, we are stronger than any enemy." Lyra's lips curved into a small, genuine smile. For the first time, she felt that this union, this forced partnership, could lead to something remarkable. Not only a political alliance, but a true collaboration of minds and hearts, capable of facing any challenge the galaxy could throw at them. As they descended into the command center to finalize post-battle reports, Lyra realized something else. Humans were not just allies in war. They could be partners in learning, in strategy, and perhaps even in understanding. She felt a small spark of hope and anticipation for the future. The battle was won, but more importantly, a new respect and trust had formed between human and Zitheran. Princess Lyra knew that the journey ahead would not be easy. There would be more threats, more challenges, and more tests of courage and ingenuity. But for the first time, she believed that they could face the future together. And as the night settled over Zithera Prime, with the twin moons casting silver light over the city, Lyra allowed herself a thought she had never admitted before. Perhaps humans, in their unpredictability and courage, were exactly what her people needed: the sky above Zithera. Prime was calm, almost serene, in stark contrast to the chaos of the previous days. Twin suns rose slowly, casting gentle golden light across the city. Princess Lyra stood on the palace balcony, her violet eyes tracing the horizon, reflecting on everything that had happened. The Zelari retreat, the defense of Zithera IX, and the unexpected courage and ingenuity of Captain Elias Kane had left her with a mix of awe and curiosity she could hardly put into words. She remembered the first day she had met him, filled with anger and disbelief at her mother's insistence that she marry a human. Now, after battles and negotiations, after moments of fear and triumph, she could see humans in a completely different light. Not as fragile or unpredictable, but as capable, brave, and surprisingly inspiring. Elias appeared beside her, quiet but steady, as if he had sensed her thoughts. He did not speak immediately, letting the soft wind of the morning fill the space between them. Lyra glanced at him, noting the faint smudges of battle on his uniform and the tired but unwavering calm in his posture. "Princess," he said finally, his voice low and steady, "today, everything we have done, it was not just about defending your planet. It was about showing that humans and Zitherans can work together, and that together we can face challenges no one species could handle alone." Lyra nodded slowly. "I see that now. I underestimated humans. I thought your unpredictability was a weakness, but it is a strength. You inspire those around you. You adapt. You endure. I have seen it with my own eyes." Elias smiled faintly. "Humans survive by facing what seems impossible. That is all we do." Lyra looked out over the city, her mind filled with the events of the past days. She remembered the chaos of the Zelari attacks, the tension in the command center, and the courage of her people, inspired by Elias' presence. She realized that strength came in many forms, and humans, though different, had qualities Zitherans could learn from. "Captain Kane," she said after a pause, turning to face him fully, "I believe my mother was right. Humans are not what I thought. You are not what I thought. Perhaps this alliance, this marriage is not simply a duty. Perhaps it is a chance to create something greater than either of our peoples could achieve alone." Elia's eyes softened with understanding. "Princess, I hope that is what it will be. Not just a union of politics, but a partnership of trust, respect, and shared strength." For a long moment they stood in silence, the twin suns casting warm light over them, the city below quiet for the first time in days. Lyra felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had begun this journey resistant, frustrated, and skeptical, but now she felt a sense of purpose and clarity. Humans were not just allies, they were partners, capable of complementing her abilities and inspiring her people. Later in the council chambers, Lyra addressed her advisors and representatives from allied species. Her voice was clear, confident, and commanding. "The Zelari have been repelled for now," she began. "Our people have fought bravely, and we have seen the value of courage, ingenuity, and cooperation. We have learned that strength comes not from power alone, but from unity and understanding." She paused, glancing at Elias, who stood respectfully by her side. "Humans have proven themselves capable of great things. They are clever, brave, and willing to rise to any challenge. I now understand why this alliance was necessary, and I acknowledge that together we are stronger than any enemy we may face." Her words were met with murmurs of agreement, and slowly the room filled with nods of respect. Lyra felt a sense of pride and accomplishment she had never experienced before. She had not only survived the battles but had grown as a leader, learning to trust and to recognize strength in unexpected forms. That evening, Lyra walked through the palace gardens, Elias accompanying her. The air was filled with the soft hum of energy fields and the gentle glow of bioluminescent plants. She felt a sense of peace, yet beneath it, a spark of excitement for the future. "You have changed my perspective," she said softly, looking at him. "I no longer see humans as separate, as weak, or unpredictable. I see potential. I see courage. I see the future of our worlds together." Elias smiled, a faint warmth in his eyes. "And you have shown me that leadership is not only about command but about understanding. Your people are strong, Princess. You inspire them, and you have shown me how courage can be guided with wisdom and care." Lyra's cheeks warmed slightly. I suppose we make a good team." "Yes," Elias replied simply, "a very good team." As the days passed, the rebuilding of the city and fleets continued. Lyra worked alongside Elias, learning from his human strategies while contributing her knowledge of Zither systems. Together, they coordinated trade, defense, and diplomacy, creating solutions that impressed their allies and humbled their enemies. During one meeting with the Queen, Lyra spoke openly about her experience. "Mother," she said, "I understand now. Humans are not what I feared. They are capable of inspiring greatness, and I believe our peoples can achieve more together than apart. I will support this alliance fully, not out of duty, but because it is the right choice." The queen smiled, her silver eyes reflecting pride. "You have grown, Lyra. You see strength where others might not. That vision and your courage will guide Zithra Prime into a brighter future." Lyra nodded, feeling a deep sense of responsibility and purpose. She realized that leadership was not simply about making decisions. It was about understanding others, adapting, and fostering cooperation. Humans had taught her that in ways she had never expected. In the following weeks, Lyra and Elias continued to strengthen ties with neighboring planets, resolve disputes, and fortify defenses against future Zelari attacks. The princess discovered that humans' ability to inspire ingenuity and courage was invaluable. Soldiers and civilians alike responded to their joint leadership with renewed determination and hope. One evening, as they stood overlooking the city from a high terrace, Lyra spoke quietly. "Captain, I have come to respect humans more than I can say. Your courage, your ability to adapt, it has changed how I see the galaxy. You have taught me that strength comes in many forms, and sometimes the unexpected is the most powerful." Elias looked at her, his expression calm but earnest. "And you have taught me that leadership requires understanding, patience, and trust. We complement each other, Princess. That is why our alliance and our future is strong." Lyra smiled faintly, feeling a deep sense of connection she had not anticipated. Perhaps this union, this partnership, is not simply about politics. Perhaps it is about creating something better, something our worlds could not achieve alone. "Yes," Elias agreed. "Together we are stronger. Together we can face anything the galaxy throws at us." As the twin moons rose over Zithra Prime, casting silver light across the city, Lyra allowed herself to feel hope and anticipation. The challenges ahead would be great, and the Zelari threat would return, but she now understood the true value of humans. They were not just allies, they were partners in courage, strategy, and survival. The final formal ceremony to seal the alliance took place in the royal palace. Representatives from allied species, military leaders, and civilians gathered to witness the historic moment. Lyra and Elias stood side by side, their posture confident and united. The queen addressed the assembly. "Today, we celebrate not just a union of species, but a union of vision, courage, and cooperation. Humans have shown themselves worthy of trust and respect. Princess Lyra and Captain Elias can embody the future of our alliance, a future built on mutual strength and understanding." Lyra stepped forward, her voice strong and clear. "I accept this alliance, not as a duty imposed upon me, but as a recognition of the courage, ingenuity, and resilience I have witnessed. Together, humans and Zitherans can achieve greatness, protect our worlds, and face any challenge the galaxy may bring." Elias stood beside her, equally firm in his conviction. "I accept this alliance, not out of obligation, but because I believe in the strength of cooperation and the potential of our peoples. Together, we will rise to meet any threat, and together, we will succeed." The assembly erupted in applause, voices rising in celebration of a new era. Lyra felt a surge of pride and fulfillment. She had grown as a leader, learned to trust, and discovered strength in unexpected forms. Humans had proven themselves capable, and she had learned to respect and value their courage and ingenuity. As the ceremony concluded, Lyra and Elias walked to the balcony once more, overlooking the city illuminated by countless lights. "We have achieved much," Lyra said softly. "But this is only the beginning. There will be challenges ahead." Elias nodded. "Yes, but now we face them together. And together we are stronger than any threat, any enemy, or any challenge the galaxy can present." Lyra smiled, her heart filled with determination and hope. For the first time, she truly believed that the future of Zithra Prime and the alliance with humans was bright. She had learned that courage, ingenuity, and resilience were not limited to one species. They could be found in humans, in Zitharans, and in the unity between them. The stars above shimmered with promise, the twin moons reflected in the palace's polished surfaces, and Princess Lyra felt a quiet certainty. Together, she and Captain Elias Kane would lead their peoples into a new era, one defined by strength, respect, and cooperation. As night deepened over Zithara Prime, Lyra allowed herself a final thought, whispered almost to herself. Perhaps humans were exactly what her world needed: brave, clever, and capable of inspiring greatness. Perhaps in their partnership, a future of peace, resilience, and prosperity could finally be achieved. And for the first time since the beginning of this journey, Princess Lyra smiled fully, knowing that together, they could face the galaxy with courage, intelligence, and hope.